Hey everyone, this is Velo welcoming you to the 6th product update webinar live with Leverj. Just to start with a few housekeeping items, please feel free to ask questions as they come to mind. You can type them in the chat box here on YouTube, or you can go ahead and inquire in our Telegram channel. I will do my best to relay them to the team. All questions will be answered during appropriate breaks in the presentation, so fire away. Also, feel free to invite your friends. So we're going to go ahead and get started now. So with that, I'll hand it over to Swapman to kick us off. Swap.
Yeah, thanks a lot. We have a handful of updates today to get through since the last webinar a couple of weeks ago. We're going to first hit on the beta testing program and then give a bit of a sort of general product update. And we have a job posting also that we wanted to discuss, and we have API documentation that's starting to come out, and just wanted to also talk about a couple of other general updates on the space that some of you in Telegram have been discussing over the past couple of weeks. So first we'll talk a bit about the beta program. So it's been nice and active since we released it end of May. The Trello board's fairly active, and we're getting really good feedback from a handful of testers, so basically, since the last update, we have fixed this balance issue, and all the trading execution and all this, the balance going negative and all those things have been addressed. The main registration path through MetaMask is functioning now as intended. So basically, the MetaMask version of the journey is complete. And of course, we're going to be adding the manual one. So if you're just in my Ether wallet, or also if you're using Ledger as your hardware wallet, we're going to incorporate that. But we wanted to first focus on just getting MetaMask down for the main flow. And on the Trello board for the Leverj testers, we have included now this list called available on testnet. So whenever a bug has been posted and it's been vetted as a legitimate bug that certainly needs to be addressed, then it will be moved over to this list and marked with this green box, and that indicates that it has been validated, and you are then able to just see that the bugs that are being reported are in fact being addressed, and the loop is then closed on that. So that has been, I think, a very sort of a successful way of managing that process of reporting and closing the ticket. So the next step is that we are going to be adding the alternative registration path. So a lot of people have been talking about how, well, they don't really like to use MetaMask. They would prefer to actually use their hardware wallet, which of course is understandable. And also people that have a manual setup, so maybe you have an offline storing of your keys where you would rather perform the API key registration via something like my Ether wallet or whatever other kind of manual system. So that's what we're going to be focusing on there. And also we have to, of course, finish the withdrawal process because the critical path of registering and transferring funds from your wallet to Plasma to be tradable, and then also pulling the funds from Plasma back over to your wallet. This is the entire critical mechanical functions that are needed, and so this withdrawal that's being finished now is really completing that basic mechanical process. But of course, it's not just about getting the mechanics of a process down in when developing the product. It also has to be usable. So we wanted to make sure that the engine underneath all of this was first in place before we over designed and over implemented the features. So basically, now that this basic path is complete, and we're going to add the other registration journeys as well. Now it's just a matter of getting the UI UX down. So we have very talented engineers on the team, but not necessarily any that are specialists in design and front end, which is really a special sort of niche with engineers, because a lot of those who are very quantitative aren't necessarily very good with design. So while we can, we have worked with many different front end developers. We have contracted them in the past 6 months. So 3 different front end developers we have worked with to get lots of different aspects of the UI done. But we really need a proper dedicated member on the team that is able to really hammer home some of the more specific and hardcore UI UX development needed to make this whole mechanical journey, much more smooth, because it's a very complex process, and we want to make it the platform appeal to a whole variety of skill levels. So to that end, we have posted a job listing on angel.co. So if anybody in the San Francisco Bay Area or Puerto Rico is able to fill this job full time, then please apply over at angel.co/leverj/jobs. We'd love to get the CV and see if it's a good fit, because we obviously we can finish things through with contractors and this and that, but we are starting to realize it would really help to have a quality in-house full-time member of the team that has this competency. So if you or your friends, anyone thinks that they can fit this, please don't hesitate to contact us and to apply. Another point that we have been working on is proper API documentation. So every function that we've been talking about regarding the exchange is accessible and doable via the REST and WebSocket API that Leverj is providing to everybody. And the reason why we are getting this out sort of ASAP is that we want to facilitate those in the community and the other projects to build verticals on top of what we are putting together. So we are innovating heavily in the area of decentralized custody with Plasma. So lots of people are interested to build on top of this, and we want to make sure that we're giving you guys the tools to be able to do that. So we are constantly updating this, so it's by no means a complete document, but you can get an idea of how this is looking right now at leverj.github.io/API. And we're going to be constantly updating this, so don't necessarily think this is a finished product in terms of that, but you can at least start putting some of the endpoints and some of the expected parameters in your application, given what we are providing there. So maybe actually before I go into this next set of the slides, if anybody has any questions about the beta testing product, the beta testing program and the general product path and where we are right now and what's to be expected in the next month or so, or anything like that, please ask now, because the next set of slides are sort of less, product related and more sort of general for the project. So if you are on Telegram or on YouTube, feel free to ask, and then Vilo can relay it, because I'm not able to see.
All right, yeah, we've got a question in the YouTube chat. Sorry if this has been asked before, but what infrastructure is in place to handle large amounts of API calls?
Right, so I'll sort of speak generally on that, and if Shashank has something specific to mention on top of what I provide, then he can chime in. But basically, we're still running a server that has these REST and WebSocket API gateways, right? So you would not It's not only the Ethereum network you are interacting with, just so we're clear on that. And so as such, we have obviously rate limits that have to be in place to keep it sane, at least, because if somebody's sending 1,000 requests per second, that obviously has to be throttled, right? So so in that sense, it's very sort of I think the traditional tools that centralized exchanges are using to mitigate that flow is sort of what we would be using. But anything more specific than that, I'm not entirely sure of.
Yeah, I can just chime in a couple of more statements. Swap, I think you kind of summarized it correctly. Yes, there are multiple things that we'll put in place to make sure that we have the right guide rails, at the same time the right quality of service when we have API, in a production environment. For now, though, please keep in mind that this is super early. This is like a alpha phase, so we are not investing as much on scalability of the API and the calls as much as we are making sure the functionality is right, and then you're able to kind of get started. Now, in due course of time, do remember that these APIs will essentially access or reach the same servers that will function the endpoints that we'll provide. When I say the endpoints, the web interfaces or the mobile interface or any other interface that we provide. So we will certainly, many of us have worked on these problems for multiple years now. So we will use the usual tricks of the trade, if you may, right? We'll use rate limiting, we'll do load balancing, we'll have some level of caching and redundancy in place for especially the get type of calls at due course of time. And at some point in time, we might also look at some geo-specific optimizations. So we've got a lot of those on our plans, a lot of those technologies that we understand very well, but obviously we are not working on that as we speak. We will, slowly pick that up one bit at a time, starting with functionality first. So that's the, kind of sort of gist or the broader level picture. If there is a lot more interest, either on the channel or otherwise, we're happy to share, more details as we keep progressing on this path. Last but not the least, before I sort of close in this topic, I would request, don't try to test it out. Don't try to DDoS that endpoint. That's not what we want right now. So hold on to that enthusiasm. There'll be a point for it too. Thank you.
No, yeah, and when it comes to sort of pen testing and security stuff in general, focus on the actual like funds and smart contract interactions, stuff like that's more interesting when it comes to pen testing. DDoSing endpoints is not helpful or stuff like that, right? So, any other questions related to API, beta testing, or product development progress? Okay, if not, Vilo, I'll move on then to a couple of other sort of more qualitative, strategic, maybe even topics that have popped up over the past couple of weeks. So obviously there's been significant market volatility, and so I've shown this chart here of ETH in the past 6 months or so, 6-7 months, and this sort of is a nice big reminder to everybody about why we are doing this, why Leverj is existing, why these derivatives and other risk management tools, why they are so useful. And you can either look at a chart like this and think, oh, I'm just going to hold my assets and not care and not listen to that. Or you can proactively deal with it and make sure that you are optimized for this type of uncertainty. And with futures, with just sort of risk products in general, you are able to handle this. And so just all of this sort of bear market stuff everyone's talking about, all the downturn in so many parts of crypto markets, that's why you need to be able to short and to hedge against these kinds of bad, these adverse market events. And another aspect is this BitTom and some other hacks that have been happening. It's just a constant reminder that you need to maintain custody over your funds. You are only really safe if you are in control of the keys. You can't trust exchanges. They're a huge central point of failure, and that becomes a honeypot because everybody wants to then go after exchanges, and you're putting your money in a pool of funds that's like a massive honeypot, and So this is another reason why Leverj exists, just being able to hold custody and avoid the headaches of this. And another topic that some people have been talking about in the groups here the past couple of weeks is the EOS launch. They were about, I guess, 3 weeks late or so, but they finally launched over at EOS. And there's been some interesting news since they launched. For example, there's been a couple of these arbitrator orders that end up basically being sort of executive orders from the EOS block producers in order to deal with funds that have been hacked or this and that. And apparently they have frozen accounts and all kinds of funny changes to the ledger of transactions that have occurred on there. So some people are calling EOS this Ethereum killer, but and some are even asking if we are interested to work on EOS. And at this stage, given this sort of risks to users of their funds, the finality of their business transactions being at risk, we're at the current stage as a team not necessarily comfortable going much deeper into really using EOS. Of course, we are always ready to pivot to whatever technology is as promising as possible to decentralize the technology. But at this stage, we're not really convinced. And to be honest, when we're talking with a lot of other Ethereum projects, there's not really many, if any, really that from Ethereum that are seriously considering moving over to EOS because it's not the value proposition they are making for the the lower latency and the higher transaction throughput and stuff. It comes at a cost, and this is the cost really is the decentralization and the mutability, which is so important to the integrity of markets. So yeah, those were just a few items I wanted to stick in there at the end, since they were sort of areas of interest for a lot in the community. So that's all that I have. If there's any other questions related to anything, please feel free to ask now in Telegram group or YouTube channel, and one of us can answer.
All right, yeah, let's give it a minute for any questions in the YouTube chat or Telegram group. As of right now, it looks like we have no further questions. So anyone from the team wanted to give any last thoughts? All right, then. Awesome. Thanks, guys. And thank you to everyone that joined us today. Oh, actually, looks like we've got one more question.
Sure.
Just waiting for it. So in terms of the beta, how has it been progressing?
Yeah, I think it's been going well. We were ironing out some important sort of functionality there in the very beginning, so it was maybe a bit slower start than we had hoped. But I think we've gotten into a nice flow where we're producing builds with new features and getting a nice feedback loop and quality feedback on Trello as well, quality reports. I think once we get the full critical user journey, the critical path on the user journey implemented in the mechanics, it'll be a lot more engaging, maybe for testers to add value in terms of the actual UX, because it won't be as much about, oh, do these things actually work? It'll be like, are they working the way I like to? I think that's more engaging for testers to use. So we're hoping here in the next month, as we are in getting to the finish line of producing the full spot token side of things, then we expect it to be more and more action with the testers. So we appreciate everybody's sort of patience and the time investment that everybody's taking to participate. But yeah, I would say it's going very, very well.
Yeah, and to follow up on that, do we have a timeline on how long we feel we will be in testnet?
Right. So that's always up to judgment, right? I mean, in terms of the mechanical path being done, that's already going. That's going to be like live and working here, within the next couple of weeks. But whether we go to mainnet is a question that is much more loaded, right? So we want to make sure before it's going to actual mainnet, it's very essential that not only that the basic functionality is down, but also that there is adequate UX and UI so that people know what the hell is even going on as they are interacting with that. But even more so, a third component is that it has to be secure enough that we are not in a situation where we go live on mainnet, someone finds an exploit, and then there's headlines for this project, Leverj having hacked. That's something we can't come back from. So in terms of the actual tech being there and being usable on testnet, that's here in the next couple of weeks. The mainnet question is something we can't really provide too much specifics on because we can't tell you it's going to be in 2 months because by then maybe the UX stuff will be nice and developed on it, but we're still be hesitant due to security because we want to make sure it's audited in all the right places. We want to make sure it's pen tested in every way in and out. So we hope everybody understands those priorities and is able to at least see the tech in action on testnet that it's sufficient. But the security considerations really are big for us, and hopefully everybody understands that.
Awesome, yeah, and one more question from Locationary. I'll go ahead and answer this one. So is there somewhere I can make front-end UI suggestions? Yeah, so if you are interested in being a part of the beta program, right now we've got we've got somewhat of a full group of testers, but we are always accepting applications for new testers. So just go ahead and inquire in Telegram, and I will DM you with a Google form to just fill out. And as we are looking for further testers, we'll go ahead and invite you. But yeah, absolutely. If you have a suggestion that you'd like to make now, absolutely in Telegram. That is the best place to reach us. All right. Any more questions? And thank you, Locationary, by the way, for your questions. Really appreciate it. Yeah, and we appreciate the support, and we will have the VOD published and available soon for this webinar. And all links referenced in the presentation will be added in annotations. So that about wraps us up. Thank you again for joining, and we'll see you on Telegram. Bye now.